They took my hands before they let me speak. Not out of cruelty. That's the part nobody believes when I tell it. The humans took my hands off at the wrist, sealed the stumps clean, and then they sat me in a chair that was too soft for a body like mine, and they said, "Talk." They wanted a witness. Somebody who had been on the other side of it. Somebody who had watched the whole thing happen and lived when so few did. So here I am, an old soldier of a dead empire telling you what I saw. My name is Ushek. In your tongue it means nothing, so you can call me what the humans called me at the end. They called me the one who counted, because that was my work once. I sat in the belly of a warship and I counted signals. I listened to the dark between stars for the whispers of other ships, other worlds, other voices, and I told my captain what I heard. I was good at it. I was proud of it, in the way you are proud of a thing before you understand what it costs. I want you to hear this the way it happened, not the way the reports were written afterward with all their clean words. I want you to smell the smoke of it, because that's the only way you'll understand why the last thing my empire ever learned was a sentence spoken by a human woman with blood on her face. Now you'll meet the monsters you created. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me go back. You have to understand what we were first, the Corvith ascendancy. We were beautiful. I say that without shame and without pride, because it was simply true. We built ships that curved like the inside of a shell, all pale bone-white metal and long tapering lines, and when a Corvith fleet crossed a sky, the smaller peoples of the galaxy would stop whatever they were doing and look up and go quiet. We were old. We had been crossing the stars for longer than most species had been out of their own mud, and we had never in all that time lost. That was the poison in us, I think, the not losing. When you have never lost, you stop believing that losing is a thing that can happen to you. You start to believe it's a thing that happens to lesser peoples, to the soft ones, the slow ones. The humans, when we found them, were soft and slow. That's how the survey called them. I read the report myself. I read all the reports. It was part of my duty. The survey ships had followed a faint trail of radio noise out to a little yellow star at the edge of a spiral arm nobody cared about, and they'd found a species that had only just crawled off its birth world. A young species, barely a few hundred years into real spaceflight. They had colonies, yes, a handful of them, scattered and thin, but they had no real fleet, no great weapons. Their ships were ugly, patched-together things that burned chemical fire out the back like something a child would draw. They fought among themselves constantly, over lines drawn on maps, over gods, over nothing. The survey report used a word for them. Translated into your speech, it comes out as pre-worthy. Meaning not yet worth speaking to, not yet worth treating as equals. A thing to be catalogued and eventually either raised up as a servant people or cleared out of the way. I remember the officer who briefed us laughing when he read that part aloud. Pre-worthy. He said it like a joke. Half the ship laughed with him. I laughed too. I want you to know that. I'm not going to pretend I was different. I sat there in the briefing hall with my mandibles clicking in that soft way we click when we're amused, and I laughed at the ugly little apes with their chemical rockets and their squabbling. I have had a very long time to be ashamed of that laugh. The world was called Adele. It was a human colony, one of the far ones, right out at the edge where the Ascendancy's expansion routes had started to run. That was the whole reason it mattered to us at all. Adele sat on a jump corridor we wanted. A good clean corridor, one that would have cut weeks off the run between two of our core systems. And there it was, a human world sitting right in the middle of it, like a stone in a shoe. I've since learned everything about Adele that anyone can learn. I made myself learn it later when I had the time and the grief. So let me tell you what was actually there, and not what the survey saw. Adele was a farming world, mostly, about 2 million people. They grew a grain there that couldn't grow anywhere else the humans had settled, some stubborn golden thing that liked the strange soil, and they were proud of it in the way that people get proud of one small thing they're good at. They had a single real city, down in a valley by a river, and the rest was homesteads and long roads and grain silos standing up against the sky like the towers of some very humble castle. They had a school in that city. I found the records. 640 children in that school on the last day. There was a festival coming. That's the detail that still puts a stone in my chest, even now, even after everything. On the day it happened, Adele was 3 days out from a harvest festival. They'd strung lights across the main street of the town. There were lights up when we came. I know there were lights up because I saw them. I saw them from orbit on the scan feed, little warm points of color in the dark of the night side. I remember thinking they were pretty. I actually thought that. How pretty. And then I looked back down at my station because it wasn't my job to look at the pretty lights. It was my job to listen. And what I heard in the hours before was them talking to each other. That's the thing they never tell you about my old work. Counting signals means listening to voices. All those hours in the dark, I wasn't just tracking blips on a plot. I was hearing them. Farmers calling their neighbors about the weather. A man singing badly to himself, thinking no one could hear, on an open channel he'd forgotten to close. A mother telling a child it was time to come in. A boy and a girl, young, talking the way the young talk when they're falling into something and can't say so yet, both of them pretending they'd called about something else. I heard all of it. I understood almost none of it. We had translation, but it was crude then, and mostly I heard the shape of them. The music of a living world going about its evening, 3 days from a festival, with the lights up. I filed my report. No military traffic detected, no orbital defenses of significance. Population unaware. Population unaware. Those 2 words were mine. I wrote them. I signed them with my count mark, the little glyph that meant I, Ushek, heard this and it is true. The order came down 4 hours later. I'm not going to describe it to you, what we did to Adele. I've tried in the years since. I've tried to find the words that would be honest without being a kind of second cruelty, a thing you'd carry out of here and not be able to put down. And I've decided there aren't any. So I'll tell you only this much, and then I'll leave it, and you can fill the rest with whatever your own worst imagining gives you, and you still won't be as close to the truth as I was. It took 19 minutes. We had weapons that struck from orbit. We didn't even land. There was no reason to land, the officer said. Landing was for worlds you meant to keep. Adele we didn't mean to keep. We meant to clear it, the way you clear a stone from a shoe, and then we meant to have our clean corridor and never think of the place again. 19 minutes. The lights went out all at once. I watched them go out on the scan feed, all those warm little points, and there was a sound in the ship, a kind of low, pleased murmur from the crew, the sound a people make when a hard job is done well and quickly. And in the middle of that murmur, in the last second before the channels went silent forever, I heard one voice. A human voice. A woman, I think, though I couldn't have sworn to it. She was on an open channel, the emergency band, the one you shout into when everything is ending and you don't even know who you're shouting to. And she said something. 3 words, maybe 4. The translator caught only a fragment of it, and the fragment was this. Tell Earth, tell. And then nothing. I sat there with that fragment ringing in the dark of my station, and I remember the exact shape of the thought I had. It wasn't a noble thought. I wasn't better than the murmuring crew around me. My thought was small and cold and practical, the thought of a soldier who has just watched something enormous happen and is trying to file it away where it can't touch him. My thought was, Earth, that's their birth world, that's the one we haven't gotten to yet. And then, right behind it, the second thought, the one I'd been trained to have, the one my whole beautiful, undefeated empire had trained every one of us to have without even knowing we'd been trained. It doesn't matter. There's nothing they can do. I want to stop here and tell you something that you already know but that we did not. We did not understand what we had done, and I don't mean morally, I mean practically. We thought we had cleared a stone from a shoe. We thought we had removed 2 million pre-worthy creatures from a corridor we wanted, a thing so far beneath our notice that within a cycle it wouldn't even be spoken of. What we had actually done was reach into the one nest in the galaxy that we should have left alone, and we had killed the children of it, and then we had turned our backs. We didn't know what humans were, we only knew what they looked like, and those are not the same thing. It took me the rest of my life to learn the difference, and I learned it the hard way, which is the only way my people ever learned anything. You have to understand, and I say this now as one who studied them, who was made to sit and study them, who came in the end almost to love them the way you love a fire that has scarred you. You have to understand that everything about humans is a lie told by their appearance. They look soft. Their skins are soft. They have no shell, no armor, no natural weapon worth the name. Alone in the wild on their own world, a human is a slow, weak, blind-in-the-dark thing that any number of larger animals could kill. And yet they climb to the top of every food web on their entire planet, not because they were the strongest. Because of two things we did not have words for, and could not have understood even if we'd had the words. The first is that they do not stop. There is a thing they do, a thing no other species we ever met could do, where they simply keep coming. Their bodies are built for it. I learned this later from their own soldiers when they explained it to me with a terrible patient pride. On their world they hunted by walking, not by pouncing, by walking. They would find a fast animal, a thing that could outrun them 100 times over, and they would simply start walking after it. And the animal would run and rest, and the humans would arrive still walking. And the animal would run again and rest, and the humans would arrive again, still walking, for days. Until the animal's heart gave out from the terror of a thing that would not, could not, ever stop. Do you understand what I'm telling you? Their entire nature, the thing that made them, is built around pursuit that does not end. They are the thing the prey looks back at and sees still coming. And we killed their children and turned our backs and walked away. The second thing is worse. The second thing is that they grieve, and their grief does not make them weak. In us, in most peoples, a great loss breaks something. It makes you smaller. It takes the fight out. But in them, I watched this, I was there for it, I will tell you about it in a moment. In them, grief is fuel. They take the worst thing that has ever happened to them, and they burn it, and the fire of it drives them further than any living thing has a right to go. We didn't know that. We looked at 2 million grieving humans, and we thought we saw 2 million broken creatures. We had, in fact, just lit a fire. Now let me tell you about the day they came, because I was there for that too. That is the part they wanted me to witness. The reason my hands are gone and my life was spared. The reason I sit in this soft chair and talk. It was 11 months after Adele. 11 months. I want you to sit with that number because it tells you everything about how little we understood. 11 months is nothing. It is a blink. In that time we had already forgotten Adele. The corridor was open. Ships were running through it. I had been reassigned to a bigger warship, the Illuminate of the Fourth Dawn, flagship of a full battle shroud, 30 vessels of pale, beautiful bone-white metal under the flag of an admiral named Voskaren, who had never lost a battle in 300 years of life. We were parked at the far edge of the corridor at a staging system, a cold blue star with nothing around it but rock and ice. Routine work, guarding the road we'd cleared. I was back at my station, back at my counting, listening to the dark. And one day the dark spoke back. It came in as a single contact. One ship, inbound, dropping out of jump at the edge of the system. My board lit with it, and I did what I always did. I read it, I measured it, I listened to it. And the first thing I noticed was that it was ugly. I mean that seriously. That was my first professional observation, the thing I said aloud to my captain. The contact is ugly, sir. Because it was. After 11 months of nothing but our own graceful bone-white curves, this thing that came out of the jump was a brute. A slab. A great scarred wedge of gray metal with no beauty in it at all hard angles and exposed plating and long black scorch marks down its flanks like it had been through fire and hadn't bothered to wash. It looked less like a ship and more like something that had been forged, hammered out on some vast anvil by something that cared about only one thing. It was human. My board told me that instantly. The engine signature, the radio shape of it, all of it screamed human. But it was nothing like the patched-together chemical toys the survey had catalogued. This was a warship, a real one, bigger than our flagship, and there was something about the way it moved, slow, heavy, deliberate, not rushing, not evading, just coming, that I did not like at all, though I couldn't have said why. I know why now. It was walking, that ship was walking toward us, the way they always come. My captain wasn't worried. Nobody was worried. One human ship, however big and ugly, against a full Corvette battle shroud, 30 of our vessels, under Voskaren himself. It was almost insulting. The mood on the bridge was amusement mostly, a little curiosity. The admiral gave the order to hail it, more out of protocol than concern. And the human ship answered. I heard the answer before anyone else on the bridge, because hearing was my work, and I want to tell you exactly how it came. It came on every channel at once, not just the hailing band, every frequency my board could read, all of them lit up together with the same signal, so that there was no way to not hear it, no channel you could switch to that wasn't carrying it. It flooded us. It filled the whole electromagnetic dark of that cold blue system with one transmission, over and over on a loop. And it wasn't a voice at first, it was a sound. It was children. It was the sound of children in a schoolyard. 640 children, playing, laughing, calling out to each other in the strange, bright music of a human school at play. It rolled over our fleet on every frequency, warm and ordinary and alive, and for a moment nobody on our bridge understood what they were hearing or why, and the amusement drained out of the room and left behind a kind of confused silence. I understood before the others, because I had heard that world once. I had listened to Adele in the hours before we killed it, and some deep buried part of me knew the shape of that music, the exact texture of a living human world going about its ordinary day. They were playing us Adele. They were playing us the sound of the world we had murdered, the sound of the children in that school, recorded and sent out across the dark on every frequency we had, so that we would have to hear it, so that we could not hear it. And then under the children, a voice. A woman's voice, calm, not shouting, not weeping, calm in a way that was somehow the most frightening thing I had ever heard, calm the way the deepest part of the ocean is calm, calm with something enormous moving underneath it. She spoke in our own tongue, perfect, better than our translators. They had learned us. In 11 months they had learned to speak to us in our own language, and they had learned it well enough to say what they had come to say with no mistake in it at all. She said, "We received your message." That was all at first, just that. We received your message, and the schoolyard sound kept playing under her voice. My captain didn't understand. He looked at the admiral. The admiral, Voskaren, 300 years undefeated, tilted his great old head and said, in the dry, amused way he had, "What message? We sent no message." And the woman's voice, she must have heard him. They must have been reading everything, every word we said. The woman's voice answered him directly, and the calm in it cracked just slightly, just at the edge, like the first crack in a dam. She said, "One of ours sent it, before the end. She got out 3 words on the emergency band before your weapons reached her. Do you want to know what they were?" And on the bridge of the Illuminate of the 4th Dawn, the flagship of a battle shroud that had never lost, I felt my whole body go cold because I knew. I knew what those 3 words were. I had heard them myself, 11 months ago in the dark, right before the lights went out. "Tell Earth. Tell." The woman said, she said, "Tell Earth. So we're here, we got the message, we came to tell you what it means." The admiral gave the order to fire. I want to be fair to him even now. It wasn't stupidity exactly. It was the 11 months. It was the 300 years. It was 10,000 years of an empire that had never lost, all of it pressing down on one old soldier's decisions, telling him that this one ugly ship, one calm woman's voice could not possibly be a threat, and that the correct response to insolence was to erase it. He'd erased a whole world for less. He gave the order the way you swat at a thing that's buzzing near your head. Annoyed. Certain. 30 ships fired on the human warship at once. I saw it happen from my station. I saw our beautiful bone-white fleet light up all together, 30 vessels losing everything they had at that single gray slab of hammered metal, more firepower than we'd used to clear the whole of Adele, all of it converging on one target. And the target did not die. I need you to understand how wrong that was. Nothing survived a Corvette battle shroud's opening volley. Nothing. It was the thing we were for. It was the fist that had never failed to close. And that gray ship took the full weight of it. I watched the readings on my board. I watched the numbers that should have meant destroyed, annihilated, nothing left, and it did not die. It had a shield, some kind of field around it, ugly and flickering and clearly straining, but holding under a weight that should have vaporized it instantly. The humans had built a wall of light around their walking ship, and the wall bent, and the wall screamed. My board was full of the shriek of that field taking the punishment, but the wall did not break. And through the shriek the woman's voice came again, still calm, calmer now even. She said, "Is that all of it? We had to be sure. We wanted to feel the whole thing, so we'd know exactly what she felt." And then the gray ship fired back. I have tried many times to describe what the humans did to our fleet, and I always fail, because there is a part of my mind that has never fully agreed to remember it. It flinches away. Even now, telling you, I can feel it flinch. But I owe you the truth, so I'll give you what I have. It was not like our weapons. Our weapons were bright, great beautiful lances of light, clean and elegant, weapons that killed the way we did everything, gracefully. The human weapon was not beautiful and not clean and not graceful. It was a single beam, and it was almost invisible, just a faint distortion in the dark, a wrongness in the space between their ship and ours, and where it touched a Corvette vessel, that vessel simply stopped being. Not exploded. Not burned. Stopped. Like a word erased mid-sentence. One instant a ship of my people, 300 souls aboard, and the next instant a spreading cloud of what had been a ship, and the beam already moving, already reaching for the next. They took 4 of our ships before the admiral even understood we were losing. They took 9 before he gave the order to scatter. They took 19 before the order could be obeyed. And the whole time, this is the part that broke something in me that has never grown back. The whole time, the schoolyard kept playing. On every channel, the sound of 640 living children laughing in the sun of a world 3 days from a festival, rolling over the death of my beautiful undefeated fleet, on and on, while the gray ship walked through us and unmade us one at a time and did not hurry, did not gloat, did not stop. Do you see it now? Do you see what we did? We killed their children and we turned our backs and we thought that was the end of it. And they took 11 months and they learned us, our language, our ships, our weapons, our pride. And then they built a thing out of hammered gray metal and grief. And they came and they played us the sound of what we'd killed, and they walked through us, and the sound never stopped. That is what humans are. That is the thing under the soft skin. We looked at the soft skin and we thought we understood. And we were wrong in a way that cost us everything. The Illuminate of the 4th Dawn was the last ship alive. I don't fully know why they left us for last. Maybe it was the flag, maybe they wanted the flagship, the admiral, the pride of the whole shroud. Maybe they simply worked outward from the edges. But by the time the gray ship turned its wrongness toward us, we were alone in that cold blue system. One bone-white vessel in a spreading cloud of what had been 29 others, and there was no fight left to make. The admiral knew it, I'll give him that. He didn't scream at the end, he didn't beg. He sat in his great chair on the bridge, 300 years old, undefeated until this exact hour, and he watched the gray ship come. And I watched his old face, and I saw the thing arrive in it that had never once, in all his life, arrived before. He understood that he had lost. And into that silence, the woman's voice came one last time. But it was different now. The schoolyard sound had finally stopped. All the channels were quiet except for hers, and her calm was gone, and what was under the calm had come all the way up to the surface at last. She said, "You called us pre-worthy." She had our word. She had even that. They'd read the survey report somehow, taken it out of a wreck, or out of the corridor's traffic, or out of the mind of some captured thing. I never learned how. But she had the word, pre-worthy, not yet worth speaking to. She said, "You looked at us and you saw something beneath you, something too small to matter. You killed our world the way you'd clear a stone from a shoe, and you didn't even land. You didn't even look at us while you did it." And then she said the thing they made me come here to repeat, the last thing my empire ever heard. She said, "You spent 10,000 years telling yourselves you were the monsters of this galaxy, the oldest thing, the strongest thing, the thing that never lost. But you were never the monsters. You were just old, and you'd never met anything that wouldn't lie down. We're what you get when you take the one species that walks its prey to death, and you murder its children, and then you leave it alive to grieve and to build. You created us. This, what you're looking at right now, this is a thing you made, out at the edge of a corridor you wanted, 11 months ago, with 2 million people and a school full of children. Now you'll meet the monsters you created." And the gray ship fired. The illuminate of the fourth dawn died in a single instant, the way all the others had. The whole bridge, the admiral, 300 years of undefeated pride, gone, erased, a word struck out of a sentence. Except for one small piece. Except for the aft signal blister, the little armored bubble where the counter of signals sat and did his work. Except for me. I don't know if they aimed around me on purpose or if it was chance. I've asked myself that for the rest of my life, and I've never been sure. But when the light cleared and the reading settled, there was one small sealed pod tumbling through the wreck of a fleet, one life sign still flickering, one Corvette still breathing, and it was me. The counter. The one who had heard Adele in the dark and written population unaware and signed it with his mark. The gray ship came and took me. They didn't kill me. That was the first surprise, and it was almost worse than dying, because I didn't understand it, and not understanding was the exact thing that had destroyed my whole people. They opened my pod and they took me out, and there were humans there, real ones in the flesh, and they were so much smaller than I'd imagined, so much softer, and their eyes were so tired. That's the thing I remember most, how tired they were, not triumphant, not cruel, just tired in a way that went down further than tired should be able to go, the tiredness of a people who had walked a very long way after a thing and finally caught it and were not, it turned out, made happy by the catching. They took my hands. I told you that already. They did it without anger, almost gently, and when I asked why, because I could speak by then, they'd given me the means, the woman answered. The one whose voice I'd heard. She was there in the flesh. A small human female with gray coming into her dark hair and a scar down one side of her face, and she told me. She said the hands were so I would understand that I was no longer a soldier, that the counting was over, that I would never again sit in the dark and measure the shape of a living world and write 2 cold words beneath it and sign my mark. And then she told me the rest of it, the reason they'd spared me, the reason for all of it. She said, every empire that dies deserves at least one witness, someone who was there, someone who did the thing and lived, so that when the story gets told, it can't be told as a lie. You wrote population unaware. You heard our children and you filed a report and you laughed at the word pre-worthy. So you're going to be the one who tells it. You're going to spend the rest of your life telling every species that will listen exactly what happened here and exactly why and exactly what we are. Because we're not going to do this again. We did it once. We had to, but we're not monsters who want to be monsters. We're just monsters who were made. And the only way to make sure we're never made again is for everyone to know how it's done. So talk, counter. That's your work now. You count and you tell the number, and the number is 2 million, and you never let anyone forget it. So that's what I do. I'm very old now, older than a Corvith is meant to get. My empire is gone, not destroyed in the end, but finished, hollowed out, its pride broken so completely that it simply came apart, the way a thing comes apart when the story it told itself about itself stops being true. The humans didn't have to hunt the rest of us down. They only had to do what they did in that cold blue system once and let the story spread, and the story did the rest. That's a human thing too, I've learned. They understand that the most powerful weapon in the galaxy is not a beam that erases ships. It's a true story, told by the right witness, that no one can afford to disbelieve. I go from world to world and I tell it. This one, Adele, the lights that were up for the festival, the 3 words on the emergency band, the 11 months. The schoolyard playing on every channel, while a fleet that had never lost came apart in the dark. And I always end it the same way, with the same warning, because it's the only thing I have left that's worth giving. There are peoples out there still who look at humans the way we looked at them, who see the soft skin and the tired eyes and the ugly hammered ships and think, how small, how weak, how far beneath us, who see a species that walks slowly and thinks it means they can't run, who see a species that grieves and thinks it means they've broken. To all of you, I say this, as one who paid the whole price of being wrong. Look at me. Look at what's left of the Corvith ascendancy, one handless old counter, going from world to world with a number he can never put down. We were beautiful, we were old, we had never in 10,000 years lost. And we killed the wrong children, out at the edge of a corridor we wanted, and we turned our backs, and 11 months later a small tired woman with a scar told us the truth about ourselves in our own tongue. And then her ship walked through us like we were nothing, because to her, in that hour, we were nothing. We thought we were the monsters of this galaxy. We only ever met the real ones once. And they were us, the ones we made.